Welcome to the Gato. Step inside and I'll give you a quick tour. So before I get started, there's a few important things to remember. First one is that the van is tall, so any kind of enclosed, underground, covered car parks are pretty much off limits. It's 2.8 meters tall. So yeah, that's the first thing to remember. The second thing is it takes diesel, so just remember that. It'll remind you every time you start the engine and you'll hear the rattly diesel engine. The third thing is to remember to latch the drawers before you start driving, and you can just latch them by pressing them in, and you know they're latched when they're nice and flush. And the fourth and final thing to remember is to let the stove cool down before you shut the lid. So just make sure it's cool to touch before you shut the lid, otherwise the glass can smash. But otherwise, everything is pretty self-explanatory. It just works the way you would expect things to in a house, for instance. We've got hot and cold running water. That's always on. Don't need to do anything special. We've got gas that's plumbed in. So you've got a stove, and the gas also powers the hot water. There's also a nice big fridge, big 140 litre fridge under here, with a freezer in case you want to take some ice cream with you. And again, that's always on, powered by solar, and it also charges the batteries when you're driving. So, but yeah, don't have to worry about any of that. There's plenty of power. There's also plenty of storage. All of these cupboards are empty, so you can normally we put like toiletries or whatever in these ones. And the huge underbed drawers are also completely empty, and we'll normally put our clothes in those, for instance. And again, just remember the underbed drawers have a different latch, just to make sure that they're, again, latched before you drive. And coming over here, we've got a couple of other important things. There's a fire blanket in here, and in this cupboard is where you'll find most of the power related things. So you can plug in any kind of appliances you want into these inverters. Normally I leave this silver one off, so you can just turn it on by pressing that button on the top there, and it beeps and you know it's on. There's a little green light. Turn it off when you're not using it, so it doesn't use up power unnecessarily. You've also got your water level indicator here for the water tanks, and this is just for the hot water. You can leave that as is. Otherwise, in this main cupboard, it's mostly just kitchen related items, so feel free to use anything that's in there. We leave it stocked with herbs and spices and things. You've got crockery, cutlery in all of these drawers. So yeah, just go nuts and use them as you see fit. There's also some kitchen implements in the under sink drawer here. And this cupboard is handy for putting a garbage bag. There's a little hook here. You can hook a garbage bag onto this hook. And there's also a fire extinguisher under there, and some hand sanitizer and things. There is a large roof fan, which is just here. So make sure to use that when you're using the shower or cooking or anything like that. It's very powerful, as you might be able to hear, but you can also turn it way down to a low silent level while you're sleeping, which is quite nice to get some ventilation through. And on that note, I will just demonstrate the shower cubicle for you. It's a multi-purpose shower cubicle. So in this mode, it's bench space, which is quite handy because the bench is taken up by the sink and the stove. So to give you some bench space, just leave the bench top there. If you want a couch or a seat, drop it down to that level, and there's a couch seat there, so you can use it as a couch. And of course, you can also use it as a shower. The shower head you'll find up here, and it's just a standard shower on a cord situation. But importantly, in this overcab storage here is a shower curtain. And the shower curtain, you can just hook it on to these little things and you've got a shower curtain. Just make sure that the shower curtain stays inside the shower, so otherwise you'll get water running all through the van. And when you're done with the shower, depending on what angle the van is on, you might need to use a squeegee just to squeegee the water down into the drain there. Also, there's another little trick piece of bench space. If you want to, if you need extra bench space, you can just lock this one in. And of course there is the walk-through to the driver's cab here. It's a small walk-through, it's kind of, you can use it if you want, but it's quite small. So around at the back of the van, we have the garage. And basically it's just storage for things that you don't want in the living area. So we've got some camping chairs, there's a couple of gazebos. This is like a bug net style gazebo. This is a more substantial gazebo. There's a table, and normally I store the step to get into the van in there. Toilet fits quite well at the back. Most people don't use the toilet because there are so many toilets in Australia, but it's there if you need it. And there will be printed instructions included for how to use that. We've got the spare wheel for the van, and on the right here is some extra USB ports, so you can plug your phone in or whatever into the USB port, and then you can put the cable up on the bed so you can plug in while you're in bed if you need to. But importantly, if you find that the water pump is running continuously and not turning off, it probably means you're running out of water. And so just switch the water pump off here so that the pump doesn't run continuously. And then once you've filled up with water, you can then re-switch on the pump, like so. And so to fill up the water, we've got a short hose here and also a nice long hose. Most of the time you'll want to use the short hose. You can just fill up at a servo for free, and so the short hose is convenient. If you need to run a hose into a park, for instance, use this one. But because it's a flat hose, you have to fully unreel it before you can use it, and then you have to obviously reel it back up again. So if you can, try to use a short hose. Otherwise, you've got the long hose there if you need it. And citronella candle is a lifesaver in Australia. So for the water filling, come around to the side of the van, and the fill point is just under the sliding door, which is just here. And all you need to do is click the hose on, and that's it. You don't have to open any valves or anything. Just click the hose on and it's good to go. There is 200 litres of water storage under the van, so it takes a while to fill the water, like 20 to 30 minutes. So just be prepared for that when you do fill the water, and you know that the water is full because it will overflow onto the road. So when you hear splashing, that means that it's full. Just unplug it and you're done. The water is full. So there's just one thing to note about the doors. The rear ones, this second one especially, just needs a good slam. If you're finding that the van won't lock, it probably means that one of the doors is not properly latched. So that one just needs a good slam. And this side door here, you unlock it with the handle, and then you don't need to pick up a lot of speed, but the latch is at the back, so when you shut it, just give it a push here. Careful not to catch your fingers in the gap, but yeah, if you just give it a push when you shut it there, it will latch properly. And the same thing on the inside when you're shutting it. I've got a handle on the inside to give it a pull as you close it so that it latches properly. So in the back you'll find covers for the windows, and these are magnetized, so all you have to do is throw it on the window and it will block out pretty much all of the light. And there's also one for this big one for the side door as well. So we're up in the driver's cab now, and I just wanted to show a couple of things about the van, Italian quirks, if you will, of the Fiat. But before I do, there is another fire extinguisher here. Hopefully you won't need it, but there is a fire extinguisher next to the driver's head. So just be aware of that. Basically, this van wants you to put your foot on the brake to do any kind of operation, like changing gears or starting the van. So foot on the brake, start it up, and the first thing the van does is beep at you, and that's just telling you that you haven't put it in gear yet. And all you need to do to put it in gear is on the gear lever, just bump it down, and now you're in gear. And it will also tell you that where it says auto 1, that means you're in first gear, basically. It is an automatic, but it drives like a manual, but yeah. So, auto 1 is what you want to be in. If you're finding that it's not shifting gears by itself, you might have bumped it out of auto and into manual mode, and to get it back into auto mode, you just bump the gear stick across, and you can see where it said auto before. Now the auto has disappeared. That means you're in manual mode, which is not where you want to be. So you want to make sure it says auto there, so you're in automatic mode. The most important thing to remember about this van is just leave it in this position when you park. Like a manual, if you want to leave it in gear so you're not relying on the handbrake for it to not roll. Likewise, just leave it in this position. Don't put it in neutral when you park. Yeah, so that's the most important thing. Leave it in gear when you park. But otherwise, you've got an entertainment system here which has a rear camera that points directly down, which is really handy for parking. But it doesn't trigger when you put in the van in reverse. So anywhere you are in the menu, if you're listening to music or using maps or anything, you can always get back to the rear camera by pressing home and rear camera. That will always get you back to the rear camera. Otherwise, if you plug your phone into this USB port that's on the gear stick, you can use your phone's apps on the stereo, like Spotify or Google Maps or anything else. And you've also got a replacement rear view mirror up here, another camera. If you've never driven a van before, the main thing to remember is that you can't check your blind spots because you've got van behind you. So to check your blind spots, there are these little mirrors that are below the regular mirror, and they're convex. So that's your blind spot checker down there, that little mirror. Before you shift lanes, check that mirror to make sure there are no cars. But that's really the only van specific thing you need to know. It's super easy to drive, apart from that it's big. Again, no covered car parks. But yeah, you will be fine. So just a quick recap. Remember that the van is tall, 2.8 meters, no covered car parks. It's diesel, the fill point is here. Diesel, not petrol. Remember to latch the drawers before you drive, otherwise you'll have drawers flying all over the place. And don't worry, I've done that many times myself, but just try your best to remember to latch the drawers. And the fourth important thing is don't close the stove until it's cool. But if you remember those 4 things, the rest is pretty intuitive, and I really hope you enjoy your trip, because I get a kick out of it when people enjoy themselves. So yeah, thanks a lot.